Hey gamers, I hope you're all doing well. Today I want to talk a little bit about DBD, because it is a game I love and obviously spend a lot of time playing, but it also asks a surprising amount from you. And I do not mean that I'm tired of the game or that I suddenly do not enjoy playing it. There's just something about DBD where you can play for a few hours, close it, and well, you feel like your brain has finished an 8-hour shift. So today I want to share a few thoughts about why that happens, and more importantly, what can we actually do about it. Because it is easy to list everything that annoys us, it is much harder to stop those feelings from following us into the next lobby, or from changing how we treat people in it. And to me, that is the more important conversation. I suppose the best place to start is just with how much attention DBD demands from you. Even when you're not taking things particularly seriously, there's always something you need to think about. As killer, you're keeping track of 4 survivors, generators, hook states, pallets, possible perks, where everybody was the last time you saw them, and whatever your power requires on top of that. As survivor, you're watching the killer, checking your teammates, what they're doing, thinking about saves, generators, available resources, possible perks, and whether somebody else is actually going for the unhook. There's almost always something happening. Even when I'm using a stupid build and just messing around, my brain is still quietly keeping track of about 15 different things. You can absolutely play DBD casually, but DBD itself is not a particularly casual experience. One game is normally fine. After several, though, you have spent hours watching, reacting, remembering, predicting, and trying to understand what 4 other people are doing. That builds up more than we realize. So you might not even notice yourself becoming tired or irritated. You just notice that something which would normally not bother you suddenly feels incredibly personal. A missed hit feels way worse, and the teammate making a strange decision just pisses you off. Someone drops a pallet on your head and nods for 5 seconds, and suddenly it feels like they've declared war on your entire bloodline. It sounds ridiculous, I know, when you say it out loud, but in the moment it feels completely real. The constant focus is only one part of it, because everybody else enters the lobby wanting something different. One person might be completing an archive, somebody could be learning a killer they have barely played, another player might be just trying out a meme build, and somebody else has arrived ready to play the most efficient game of DBD ever recorded. None of them are necessarily doing anything wrong, they simply entered the game with different expectations. People often say DBD needs a casual and ranked mode. I understand why people suggest it, but I don't believe adding another queue would completely solve this problem. Players would still try hard in casual. Some people would enjoy playing efficiently, and some people would enjoy just winning. Others might choose casual specifically because they expect the game to be easier. For rank to be really competitive and pull players towards it, there would need to be a genuine reason to play. Something like seasonal rewards, cosmetics, profile badges, or special rewards tied to reaching particular ranks. That would at least encourage more competitive players to choose that competitive queue. Without those incentives, you have mostly just added 2 different label buttons. It might help, but you're never going to perfectly separate people based on how seriously they want to play. At some point, we also have to accept that the person or the other side may want something completely different from the experience that we do. That does not make them a bad person. It just means you're both playing the game for different reasons. The bigger problem begins when the feeling from one game follows you into the next one. You get tunneled once, and now you expect the next killer to do the same thing before they even have ever done anything in that match. You face a survivor team that spends an entire trial annoying you, and then the next lobby you already label as suspicious or just bad players or toxic or something similar. Maybe someone brings a flashlight and you immediately decide what kind of player they are. Maybe the killer finds you first and you instantly assume how the rest of the game is going to go and that they might tunnel you. You begin responding to the previous lobby instead of the people currently in front of you. That is where the negativity starts spreading. The next killer did not tunnel you. The next survivor did not teabag you. Your next teammate was not the person who gave up during your last game. Yet they may still receive all the anger that somebody else created. I have to remind myself of that. I've had to remind myself of that before, actually. Every new lobby is a fresh group of people. They deserve an opportunity to show you who they are before you decide it for them. And that brings me to something that happened a few weeks ago. I had a completely normal game. Nothing special, unusual happened. It was not some horrible situation where I was deliberately trying to make somebody miserable. It was just a regular game of DBD. Afterwards, though, somebody did something in the postgame. No, they said, something in the postgame chat about me being a horrible person and I should stop playing or something along those lines. I honestly don't remember, but you know the situation I'm talking about. When somebody speaks to you like that, your first reaction is normally to defend yourself. You want to argue back, you want to explain why they're wrong, or want to say something equally unpleasant because, hey, they started it. But instead, I guess they were probably having a shit day. I really did. That was my thought. So I went onto their profile and left a comment that said something roughly like, I hope your day gets better. Good luck in the fog area. That was it. I was not trying to embarrass them. I was not trying to win an argument. I was not trying to explain to them why they were wrong. I simply decided that I did not want to add more anger to whatever already happened. And around 2 hours later, they came to my profile and left another comment. They apologized. They said they had been having a really bad time and wished me good games. And that interaction stayed with me. Neither of us knew anything about the other person. I had no idea what happened before they entered the lobby, and they knew nothing about me beyond being the killer they had just faced. But for a brief moment, I became the target of everything they were already feeling. Because I did not throw that anger back at them, they had an opportunity to take a small step back and recognize what had happened. Now, that will not be the result every time. Some people will double down, some people deliberately looking for an argument, and you do not owe a toxic stranger your time, patience, or emotional energy. In many situations, the healthiest response is simply to close the chat, block them, and move on. Still, that interaction reminded me that there is usually a real person behind the screen. Okay, when I say usually, I mean there's always a real person behind the screen, and you have to keep that in mind. They may not be showing you who they truly are. They may be showing you the worst 5 minutes of their day, and I think this is where taking a small step back can make all the difference. Not only when somebody says something horrible, but whenever you feel yourself becoming angry during a session. You do not necessarily need to stop playing for the entire night. Maybe you get up for 5 minutes. Maybe you go grab a drink, get some water. Maybe you stop staring at the post-game chat waiting for somebody to give you yet another reason to be annoyed. Maybe you remind yourself that you do not have to win back the enjoyment you lost during the previous game, because that is another trap that DBD creates. You have one terrible experience, but you do not want it to be the final one of the night. So you queue again because you want a better ending. Then that game's become irritating as well, so you play another. And before you know it, you have spent another 2 hours chasing that feeling you had before the bad game happened. It's okay for the final one to be bad. You do not need to repair the entire evening by force. DBD will still be there tomorrow, so what can we actually control? There is no grand solution that will suddenly make every lobby pleasant. The developers can change matchmaking, balance perks, introduce new systems, and continue making adjustments, but no update can completely control how 5 strangers treat one another. There are smaller things we can control. Do not punish the next lobby for the previous one. Do not continue queuing purely because you're trying to undo a loss. Do not type the first thing that enters your head while you're angry. And when somebody else is clearly losing control, you do not have to join them. You can be kind, you can ignore them, or you can simply leave. All 3 are better than allowing a complete stranger to decide which version of you appears that day. And I'm not saying we all need to be endlessly positive, okay? Some games are genuinely frustrating, some criticism is completely fair. You are allowed to be annoyed, you're allowed to have a bad experience, and you are allowed to like how somebody played or just not that match. What matters is that you choose to do. What matters is what you choose to do without feeling. And that is probably where I land on all of this. A lot of what makes DBD mentally tiring is also what makes it such an interesting game. Because every trial is different. Every player changes what happens. You're constantly adapting, making decisions, and trying to understand the intention of 4 other people. That intensity is part of why we keep coming back. But occasionally, you need to recognize when something that happened in a big game has started changing how you treat actual people. Take a small step back. Remember that the next lobby did nothing again. to you, and don't ever let one bad game turn you into the worst version of yourself. All right, not in this timeline. So yeah, let me know if you've ever caught yourself carrying one bad game into the next one, and what helps you reset when that happens. I would love to hear about that. That was my whole conversation about today. It's an interesting topic. It's happened to me many times, and throughout my 3 years of streaming DBD, I've had to remind myself time and time again that taking a step back is sometimes really needed. And sometimes my friends were there to tell me, "Hey Cam, you know, you need to watch your VOD because you're not very happy at the moment." And I looked at my VOD and I was like, "Oh my god, they were right," and that kind of helped bring clarity. So this is me trying to bring clarity to you. All right. With this said, good luck in the fog, gamers, and stay safe.